Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I think 2022 has been a crazy year for gaming mice. We've had release after release after release, and the implementation of new sensors in the 3395, and really good implementation of optical switches in Razer's new offerings with 4K Hertz polling rate, and optical switches that happen to be really good in Cooler Master's offerings with the MM712. We now have the Ninjutso Sora weighing in at 47 grams with no holes in a shape and a form factor that I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy. But I want to break this review after some very extensive time in game developing my opinions. I'm going to give you guys the objective area, the build quality, how it feels, the switches, etc., and give you guys my subjective opinion about how I personally feel and how I personally play and view my performance with the Sora. Let's get into it. In terms of the overall build quality of the Ninjutso Sora, just objectively speaking, how does it feel? How does the integrity feel at 47 grams with no holes in any direction? I'm happy to report that the mouse feels very good. You can push very hard in any direction, and you just have ever so slight flex, particularly for me on the right side of the mouse. Nothing I would ever feel in game, and with targeted force on the top of the shell, I can feel a little bit of flex near the peak of the hump. Nothing that you would ever apply with the bottom side of your palm, so nothing that I think is going to affect the overall durability of the mouse. And if you are a death gripper, you don't have to worry about the side of the mouse flexing and activating mouse 4 and mouse 5. Overall, there is a little bit of side flex on mouse 1 and mouse 2 in both directions, nothing that I was able to feel or notice in game while playing. And most importantly, one of my biggest pet peeves, the switch grind here over mouse 1 and mouse 2. I don't feel the plastic of mouse 1 and mouse 2 grinding on the switch underneath, which is one of the things I hate the most on mice. Mouse 3 and the scroll wheel. The scroll wheel is very tactile and feels great, and mouse 3 is very spammable. Along with mouse 1 and mouse 2, those Huano blue shell pink dots feel absolutely superb. Very tactile and crispy, and just such a audible response that just sounds great, including mouse 4 and mouse 5, which are also very poppy, responsive, tactile, and just sound great. In terms of pre and post travel, there's just a bit of pre and post travel on mouse 1 and mouse 2. Nothing, again, I noticed in game. Likewise with mouse 4 and mouse 5, I have just a bit of post travel on mouse 4. Not really any pre travel whatsoever on the side buttons. So everything in terms of the total package and build quality feels great here on the Ninjutso Sora. In terms of the three things that I would change, the overall coating of the mouse becomes very swampy in a humid climate like I live in currently. The overall feeling of the mouse can get a little slippery feeling and muggy, particularly on the left side of the mouse where you would rest your thumb, and mouse 4 and mouse 5 with the glossy side buttons kind of contribute to that a little bit swampy of a feel. I wish the side buttons were a matte coating, kind of something like the Pulsar X2 and G Pro Superlight. I think glossy side buttons are kind of a thing of the past. It just overall feels better with matte side buttons, and I wish they were matte. But the coating, the side buttons, two things that would easily be solved with third-party grips, and the skates on the mouse are very thin, kind of like your default, what you would expect, even with the Pulsar series, the X-Lite, the X2. I would definitely replace the skates to something like Corpads, BTL, or Tiger Ice. I think you're going to be greatly improved here with third-party skates and third-party grips, which hopefully we will see on the likes of Lethal Gaming Gear very soon. I already know a question on everybody's mind is, what is the Ninjutso Sora most similar to in terms of size, hand feel, and shape? And I can certainly tell you that the G Pro Superlight is nothing like the Ninjutso Sora and is not even going to be a comparison in this video. The Ninjutso Sora is most similar to the Pulsar X2 in terms of hand feel and shape, in terms of the overall size under your palm. But there are very major differences between the two. I would say the hump on the Pulsar X2 is more pointed at its peak, whereas the Sora's hump is more gradual. So the hump on the Sora is going to be a little bit more comfortable. Towards the front of the mouse on the Pulsar X2, you can see that the buttons are actually concave and dip down a little bit more aggressively than the Ninjutso Sora. The one major change for me and my grip on the mouse was the overall width at the front of the mouse. The overall width is not vastly different on the Pulsar X2 and the Ninjutso Sora, but the minor difference in the width actually has me a little bit more comfortable on the Pulsar X2. The Ninjutso Sora gets a little bit thinner towards the front of the mouse, where my ring finger and pinky finger kind of have to hold on for dear life. My hands are very large and very wide. So the Ninjutso Sora is a very good mouse, but it's just a mouse that I feel a little bit less comfortable on compared to its biggest competitor in this size space, the Pulsar X2. I think a lot of people are probably also going to compare this mouse to the Lamzu Atlantis. A lot of people might refer to this as a Lamzu Atlantis Mini. There's a few similarities, but they are very different mice in terms of hand feel. The Lamzu Atlantis is a very specific mouse that feels very different than the Ninjutso Sora in hand. Both are great mice. Both have gradual humps up to the peak of the hump. The Lamzu Atlantis having a higher hump than the Ninjutso Sora, and just overall being a much wider mouse. But the overall hand feel in terms of how that hump kind of hits is a little bit similar to the experience of the Lamzu Atlantis. Again, in my personal opinion, I think the most similar in terms of hand feel, in terms of how the mouse fills out your hand and how it feels under your palm, the Pulsar X2 is going to be the most similar. Again, the most drastic changes being the front of the mouse, Mouse 1 and Mouse 2 being concave and dipping down a little bit faster and more aggressively on the Pulsar, and having a targeted peak on the hump compared to a gradual hump on the Ninjutso Sora. Although I feel myself kind of taking and performing a little bit better on wider mice in the space, the Ninjutso Sora is a fantastic mouse. I think it is an absolute home run. And as a reviewer, you have to keep in mind when you're watching this video, my hands are very large and very wide. I can literally grab my Lamzu Atlantis and my G Pro Superlight and almost use both at the same time. The Ninjutso Sora is just a little bit too thin for me, again, making my ring and pinky finger feel like they're hanging on with too much effort, making me feel a little bit less comfortable than something like the Pulsar X2 and the Lamzu Atlantis. I think the Ninjutso Sora, for what it is 47 grams with fantastic feeling switches and a mouse that is just feather light with no holes and a 3395 sensor. I personally think that this is going to be a home run across the board for a lot of small to medium-handed users and potentially even large-handed users that just don't quite have as wide of hands that I have. And the great thing with Ninjutso is they do have 2 home runs now for mice. If you are a large-handed user and you find comfort with wider mice, the Katana Superlight is an absolute bombshell of a mouse. I love the Katana Superlight. It is just a mouse that for its size is so lightweight, so well balanced, and the switches feel amazing in the Katana Superlight. Anybody who kind of doesn't take to the Sora, if you haven't tried the Katana Superlight, I definitely recommend it. It is very comfortable and reminds me of the old IntelliMouse that I used to use back in the days of Pro CS. I think that Ninjutso is coming out with fantastic products, especially in wireless format. I'm personally very excited to see what they do in the future, and I cannot be happier with both of these releases. It's great to see a company like Ninjutso really coming out with products that are going to appeal to a wide number of users. So that is it for this video, guys. Rest assured, if you pre-order the Ninjutso Sora, you have a banger of a mouse on the way. Once you guys receive it, test it in-game, let me know what you think in the comments. If it helped, guys, please leave a sub to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next review. Peace.